know that when you have a purpose and a calling on your life, there's nothing that nobody, and nothing can happen. I am Angela C. Wright.
Over the top, the gotcha.
He said your numbers has shrunk. He said, I don't know how, why.
You're not gonna get. Listen, you're gonna have to have mounds of security for me because you're not gonna get me.
If I wasn't depressed and going through what I was going through, I probably would have never started.
And this episode was brought to you by the Ayers Agency, a full-service marketing firm noted in entertainment and culture. Hey, y'all. Welcome to another episode. No. A great episode of Break Phree Podcast. Today, I have one of my sister friends with me. Y'all help me say hello to Dr. Topeka Sam.
Thank you, Dr. Wright.
Yes.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Baby. No, first of all, she flew in, y'all. She flew in. It's an in and an out. Yes.
Yes, I flew me in, though. Only temporary.
Only temporary. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling blessed and highly favored. And so happy to be here with you.
Yes, I'm happy to be here with you too.
So proud of you.
Like
oh my God, it's so proud. I've been watching and I'm like, you did it. You said you would and you did it.
Yeah.
And God opened every single door. So I'm just happy to see like what it's going to grow into be.
But you know, I think back to the initial meeting. Like the place here where I record at is because you introduced me to Ashana. Do you remember that night?
I remember that night because you don't let me forget it. Because when you do things without intention, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you know, I knew that you needed to meet her. Y'all were in the same city. It did not make sense that you didn't. And so I was like, we used to tell the story, but I remember that night specifically. So I didn't know what was... I didn't know when I would be back into the city, into Atlanta. So I knew when Ashana, and everyone's schedules are so busy, right?
Yeah.
When she was like, she had time, and I was like, wait a minute. You got to get yourself together because I know you got to meet the sister. I don't know what could come out of it because I always say that, but I know something great.
Yeah. Do you remember I did not want to go?
Yeah, because your hair wasn't done. Your hair was not done. It was not laid like it is today. But... you did. You pulled it together as per usual.
Yeah, little top knot.
You know what I mean?
Natural hair. Yeah.
It was cute.
It's edges there, y'all. And length. No, but you know what, Topeka? That is so you. You get what I'm saying? That's you. Like, you are a connector, especially, like, to women. Like, you are that person. If there was a middleman in the dope game, like, you the ultimate middleman because you constantly make connections, and not only
the irony is that was my role. I called myself like I was a broker. I had to connect, and I knew the dudes, and so I connected the people, and that's what it was.
I did not know that's the role you played in the conspiracy.
It is. I was the connector. It was my connect.
Yeah.
And so but I wasn't selling drugs on the street. I didn't know anything about that game. I didn't know, anything. That's why I sold bricks. I didn't know about how you break down a brick I didn't want to know any of that.
We don't need no style. We break it down. No.
I didn't know about none of that, right? But I knew that I could make some money if I connect point A with point C because I was B. And that's how I got involved, really. So it's so funny that you say that because...
But now you're doing it for the Lord.
For the Lord. You use your powers.
Right there. Let me just get a wave right there.
You use your powers for good and not evil.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, so how much time did you end up serving?
3 years. Thank God.
Really?
Yep, 3 years.
But you were sentenced to...
10 years, 10 months.
And tell us about that process, like how you got it down. Tell us about
the
process.
So first, I should say that my attorney told me that I was going to do all the time. But I said, God told me something different. I knew from the very beginning that I was not going to have to do all that time. And so I was first time, nonviolent, fit all the criteria for one safety valve. And so I was like, I'm going to write a letter to the judge. And the judge had denied my downward departure at sentencing.
Why? You didn't do what?
Well, he said I didn't cooperate.
And you didn't accept responsibility?
No, but I did accept responsibility, but he didn't give me the downward departure. He said I was a drug queenpin and a threat to society, and he was going to make an example out of me.
Yeah.
But I knew God had a different plan.
Right.
And I kept saying that anybody who was inside with me would be like, Topeka says she was not doing all this time because it just didn't make any good sense to me that while, yes, I had sold drugs, but at this point in my life, I was set up. I was pulled in to an ongoing investigation. So I was a superseding indictment to someone else's.
Oh, wow.
And so my connect actually got caught, and they pulled me in. They reached out to me after 7 years. I was like, okay, I'm opening this other business, and I want to scale this business that I have now, and I could do this quick 1-2, one last run.
We always think one more time.
One last run, and that one last run ended up being a federal drug conspiracy. And so fast forward, I told my lawyer, I'm writing a letter to the judge. And the lawyer's like, you are not above the law. You going to do this time. I was like, well, God said to write this letter. He was like, well, you go ahead and write your little letter. I don't know what kind of God you serve. You go right ahead.
Yeah.
And I did. And so, I was also choir director. They called me Sister Sam when I was inside. And in Danbury. And we had a prayer circle that we did every morning. And so into New Year's 2013 into 2014, I wrote the letter. I took it to prayer circle. We all prayed over it. Yeah. And that was it. I said, this is my prayer for 2014. And so my birthday's March 6th. On March 5th, 2014, I get called into the office, case manager's office, and she was like, your sentence has been reduced. And I was like, what? And she was like, yes. And I was like, show me. And she was like, it's been reduced to 65 months. So I was originally sentenced to 130 months. It was reduced to 65 months. And she said, and you qualify for the drug program. And I was like, the drug program? Like, what's that? I don't do drugs. She was like, well, look, it's the only program in the federal system that'll give you
18 months off
your sentence. I was like, well, sign me up and send me wherever I got to take it.
Yeah.
And I did. And I ended up going to Greenville. So did the program, got the year, and then the 6 months mandatory halfway house, and then a law passed, all drugs -2.
I remember that.
And
I got some time off.
I ended up getting 15 additional months off my sentence, and they were like, you going home in 2 weeks. And that's how it happened.
And what did you call back and say to that lawyer?
Nothing at all. At all. He knew, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I would have called back like, this is the type of God I serve.
How about it? That should have. I did.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I don't think I reached out to him ever again after that.
Yeah.
But I did, since being home, reach out to my judge. Because, it was like one of those things, I end up, did I get my pardon at the time? I don't even remember. But I do know that I went to go visit the judge. And I went down there and I sat with him and he cried.
Really?
He literally cried and was like, I'm so proud of you. And I could see the compassion because they called him Hang 'em High Hudson. And he was very mean. And it's so crazy. When you look at your judge and they're sitting on that bench, they seem so high.
Right.
And so big.
Right.
But this was a tiny man, at least now, people do shrink.
Yeah. Not only that, sometimes, you know what they say, like in the Bible, we were like grasshoppers in their sight.
That's right.
So that's the way we viewed them. We was like the grasshopper.
That's so true.
Yeah.
And then when I was there, like with him, he was smaller than me.
Grasshopper. Yeah.
But we spoke, he just said how proud he was of me. He, shed a tear, and everybody was looking. So this clearly was not something he normally did,
Not hang him high.
Not hang him high. But he did. And even the other young sister I was with, Sandra Rucker.
Out of Virginia.
Yes.
I don't know her, but I've heard about her
Yes.
case.
So Sandra had 13 life sentences, I believe. And she ended up giving her time back, and that was her judge. And so we both went to meet him together. And so it was just really, really interesting. But nonetheless, God has used me. And I didn't know what, during the journey and why, but I knew that there was something greater that I was going through this particular experience for. And it wasn't to tell just about, what it was like to be in prison. It wasn't to give the system the glory to say that that's what changed me. It was to give all the glory to God.
That's right.
And begin to, move in that, because so often I'm places, I speak places, and I always, no matter what platform I'm in, I always give God the glory. And you'd be surprised how many times people come up to me afterwards and like, I'm a believer too. Yeah. And I'm just like, okay.
This is our norm.
Right, but it's just fascinating that even today, we talk about stigmas of having a record, but the stigma that it is to be a believer of God. and that people are still hiding, you know, in their lives, in their careers, because of what other people will think. So, you know, I continue to raise God and lift God.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because, baby, one thing I'm not about to do is sell my God short.
How about it?
I don't care who. I don't care where I'm at.
How about
Whatever
it?
you believe in, you believe in. But what I believe in is what I believe in, and I say it on the mountaintop. And don't care who don't like it. I cannot
true.
believe. But you know what? To me, Topeka, it seems like nowadays people are like trying to ride the God wave.
This is true too, because, well, first of all, we could say they try to ride the God wave, or they're coming to their good senses to understand that they better.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For all of the that they did,
Yeah.
that they needed to change their life to do better, right? So, I mean, we could look at it from different perspectives.
Yeah.
But I think that, I mean, those of us who are believers and understand the power of God and have discernment, understand those that are really just riding the wave or that are trying to find another way, right? And so, you know, we give people grace. You know, sometimes I'm just like, you know, Lord, how many times do I have to forget? How many times? 7 times, 77.
Yeah.
You know, and we often don't want to do it, but, you know, you have to look at how many times God has
forgiven you. Yeah,
You know?
that's right. So while you was in prison, when did you know, like, you wanted to be this champion that you are? Because before I even met you, I did not even know you. And I just remember seeing your name on like a letter. You did a letter for me in like a petition. You was on my petition. And then I seen it somewhere else. You was going to the White House or something. And they was saying, I seen your name and it's like Topeka Sam and she's going to take your folder. And, you know, and you didn't even know me. So like what made you have the heart to reach back to women, men that you don't even know?
God, right? Like I knew that the anointing and calling that was on my life, because I was raised in church.
Right.
You know, my parents raised us as believers, knew who God was. You know, I went from being in the prison as the choir director, but I grew up playing the little piano in the, you know, in the choir at church, you know. So I always knew who God, very close, but we lose our way, right?
We do.
And so while there, I also knew that because of the opportunities, because of my life's experience, because of the support that I had, that I could come home and do anything.
And you was educated.
That too, right? And
Yeah.
and yet the people that I had left or would leave inside didn't have the privileges that I had.
Right.
And so it was clear God spoke to me in the middle of a night. And really, to be honest, when I was in that county jail, you know, I kept telling myself, I ain't supposed to be here, you know, like many of us do.
Yeah.
But
I don't have anything with these people in here.
no, it was crazy. My friends was like, don't talk to those people. You nothing like them. And I didn't. I was like, no, you right. And I would frown my nose up and look at them all crazy. And like, you know, in my head, they supposed to be here. I ain't supposed to be here. I'm going to beat this, you know.
Yeah. Operating itself.
That's it,
Yeah.
right? Until I started to really open myself. And not because I really wanted to learn. It was because it was selfish. Like I was in a cell 21 to 23 hours a day by myself in the county jail. They kept federal detainees separate from the rest of the population. And so the only time we were able to come out of our cell was for programming. So there was like a computer class. I taught that. There was a job. I cleaned the little pod so I can get out myself an hour. And then there was NA and AA classes. Now, while I didn't need it, it was a selfish reason why I took them, right?
Yeah, to get out the room.
That's it. And so I would go and listen, and it was those sisters and their stories. And I remember one day, at first I was just like, whatever, you know, everybody knows you don't do drugs.
Yeah.
You know, as much coke as I sold, I never snorted.
Yeah.
Right? I knew better because I knew the path.
Yeah.
Right? But I was like, you know, these people made this choice. One day I was just like, you know, why did you use drugs? And the sister was like, her father had been raping her and gave her heroin for the first time and told her to take that heroin so the pain would go away.
Are you serious?
And that changed my life. It was her, and then it was just like a story, testimony after testimony. And I said, Lord, forgive me. You know, I remember breaking down in the class crying and asking them to forgive me. And they're like, well, you didn't sell us the drugs. I'm like, well, you never know, you know.
Yeah.
And then that's when I was like, you know, Topeka, you got to make amends. You know, now you might not have physically sold drugs this time because it was a conspiracy, but you have. And at some point, you have to take responsibility for the things that you've done and make amends and start your path, you know, of redemption. And so that's when I decided to plead guilty. And God spoke to me during that time. But I knew, because I was that child, that, Topeka, don't touch that, it's hot.
I'm touching it anyway.
What I tell you going to get burnt?
Touching it anyway.
Didn't you just see you got burnt?
Touching it anyway.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm still doing to try to find a way. So I knew that this journey was whatever I was going through, I would learn. And so first, and I still haven't done this yet, but I think that my spirit has been kind of talking to me about it. There was a sister in a cell next to me, and I heard her one night crying. And I asked her what was wrong. And she was like, she was scared for her daughter. And her baby was maybe not even 2 yet. And I asked her why. She was like, well, her baby was with her mother. Her mother was addicted to heroin. And she had been her sister, all of them. And then I said, all right, so she was like, and she's living with a guy who just got out of jail who is a sex offender.
Oh, no.
So then I said, well, do you have any other family? Give the baby to your sister. She said, my sister's pregnant. She's addicted to heroin too. And I said, well, then you got to put her in foster care. And she was like, if the baby goes to foster care, I'll never see her again. She was like, I think she's safest where she is because she's too young to remember if something happens to her.
That's not true, though.
And it hurt me so bad, right? Like, this girl had no options, or felt she didn't have any options to protect her child. And so at the time, it was like, Topeka, you need to do a foster care where you can take children of incarcerated mothers
and give them back to them when they come home.
Right. And so that was the first thing that spoke to me. And I have no children, and I like collect children along the way. All this, I got children, my nieces and nephews, all the things. And so I'm like, well, maybe this is what I'm going to do. But then it was like God spoke and, breathed life into Ladies of Hope Ministries when I was inside. And so, when I got the call to be released early, I knew that was what I needed to do, because while I was moved that this is what I wanted to do, God spoke to me on this is what I have to do.
Be obedient, yeah. And sometimes we want to do what we want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, instead of doing what we
And we know that don't get us nowhere fast or far, right? We might think it is.
Yeah.
But, it's a waste of time. And so when I came home, I started just learning. So I went back to school first. And then I started some courses. I was at Columbia University doing a few fellowships, and then I was like, maybe I'll go back and enroll in school full time because I didn't get my bachelor's degree. And then this opportunity comes up for me to start the organization. Somebody wanted to give us a grant, and then I'm talking to my mentor, Reverend Dr. Moody, and she was like, girl, you better go ahead and do what you're doing over here. Yeah. And it was like everything, listen to what God is telling you to do.
Right.
Start the organization, and then just, I've been moving ever since.
And Ladies of Hope is in this, 7th year?
6th year.
6 years.
Yes,
6 years.
so 6 years.
Ladies of Hope Ministries.
The Ladies of Hope Ministries.
And you started it in New York.
I started it in New York. We're now in 34 states around the country. We have housing in 3 states. Expanding to 5.
National organization, baby.
National organization,
big one, not the little one.
Not the little one. 2 international countries we do work in Trinidad, and then Bogota, Colombia, and just continuing to build and stand. Shout out to Lee.
Pretty sure he'll go check on the school for you anytime.
And we're going to send them in that prison to that nursery out there that is terrible.
It is.
Oh, my God. I cried when I went there and saw the babies, how they have to live with their mothers inside of those prisons. It's just, it's heartbreaking. So, yeah, the organization was birthed through that. And, while it has been hard, God didn't say it would be easy.
Right.
But there is nothing else that I would have rather done for the last now 8 years that I've been home than to be able to be a servant leader and be a vessel and be in rooms that people dare to dream in,
You've been Richard Branson with Virgin Atlantic, Virgin Galactic.
Richard Branson,
Vanity Fair, was it the Vanity?
Vanity Magazine.
Vanity Magazine.
Variety Magazine,
Variety.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can go on and on, Topeka, about like sponsors, donors, the places you be. Like, how do you feel when you in those rooms?
You know what's crazy? I feel like I'm supposed to be there, right?
There. Yeah.
Like, I think part of it is just my parents really invested in us and how I was raised. That while I was always usually in my community, we the only black family. So I was used to being around white folk, you know, and white folk who were affluent and had means. And so being in rooms, the irony is even today, sometimes I'm more comfortable in a room full of white people than I am my own people.
Really?
It's fascinating. Yeah, I've actually looked into it. I've been to therapy through it. But people associate what they're most comfortable and what they're used to, right? And so because all of my young life to the time I was 18 and went to college, that's what I was used to.
Right.
That when I go into these rooms, especially like when we were working with the White House, and people are like, you can't go, well, the Trump administration White House, and people were like, you can't go into there. Oh my God. And I'm like, well, these are like all the daddies of the people I grew up with. Like, I don't feel uncomfortable in here, you know? So and I understand because I've lived also in Baltimore City and I sold drugs in the city and, you know, I was in prison and I understand both sides of it, you know, and they say people, you know, can code switch or whatever you call it. I try to show up as my full self in all rooms. You know, that's why some people say I talk like I'm white sometimes. Some people say, damn, you got a yuck mouth sometimes. You know, it just depends on the day. But I just feel like I'm just, you know, all of it, right? Yeah. And I've gotten to the point into the age where I love who I have become, and I'm always evolving and growing, right? And so, like, in this new kind of year and new season, you know, I've been looking at, you know, Topeka, how you now pouring into you. Like, you have poured into so many people, and I do every single day, all day. Yeah. That's all I do.
Oh, you know, I know. It's times
You know.
I stayed at your house. It's time you stayed at my house. It's never a dull moment with you with that phone and that computer.
Right. It's probably now hitting the floor.
Your Zoom light for all your many meetings hooked to your computer.
It's so funny. Yesterday, somebody was like, why does your light look like that? I'm like, oh, just get it off Amazon. It's like $9.95. No big deal.
Yeah.
But
so this is the year of you.
For sure. Yeah. And as I look at my relationships, one thing, because you did RDAP, right?
No, I
You didn't do RDAP?
I thank God I bypassed
All right.
it.
Yeah, you should. You
I
should.
felt like it was a snitch program. They don't.
The people did snitch on me. I didn't ever pull anybody out.
Because I felt like it wasn't a community where you want us to hold each other accountable. No, you want us to tell on each other. That's not helping us.
But here's the thing, right? I'm going to say what I did learn. You know, it's not for everybody.
Right.
But what I learned through that, right? It's one thing to snitch on somebody. It's another thing to hold somebody accountable, right? There's another thing to lift your friend up, right? And to tell them when you're doing right or wrong.
Right.
There was a time in my life where my friends, people closest to me, would not tell me that I was wrong. Like, they would.
For the sake of not falling out. Oh, so you had a bunch of yes men around you.
I mean, I'm not going to say that, but I had a bunch of people that did not like conflict.
Oh, okay.
Right? So that's a different type of personality.
Yeah.
You have people who just do not like conflict. Me, I move into conflict, right? So because of that, you could talk to me, but we gonna go toe to toe all the way, and I'm always gonna have a point of perspective, and I think mine is the right one. Oh, yeah. Now I have grown, right? You know, some people would argue against that, but I feel that I've grown to the point that I can listen and I can take feedback, and you know, I actually catch myself most of the time before somebody else has to tell me something.
Like, girl, now you know
you wrong. You know,
you're wrong.
Because I've learned how to look at myself in the mirror, and I've learned to say, look, I don't like her. Right? While everybody else might think you're the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
You really not.
Yeah.
You know, so how you going to get yourself to be truly what you're showing people? But how can you be good inside, right? All the way inside. And, you know, that takes deep reflection, you know, deep honesty with yourself, deep forgiveness, you know, of the harm you've caused, not only the harm that people have caused you, because so often we don't talk about that we've done to hurt people. And, you know, hurt people, you know, and it's not one way.
Heal people.
They do too. And that is a process, right? You don't get healed overnight.
No.
Even if you spend time in prison, you know, people come out worse than they went in, you know, because you're not getting those tools while you're in there. But, you know, through that experience with RDAP, it was just like I just learned so much, even about myself, because I was against it at first. I'm like, what man going to tell me that God don't tell me, right? But then I was like, wait, maybe God is utilizing this experience for me to learn something else. And I did. Like, I knew nothing about methamphetamine, and all the other things that were happening in the middle of
I was
America.
so biased against that. I was like, oh, that's a white people drug, and y'all in trailer parks with no teeth.
And all the things,
Yeah.
and then when you realize that's not true.
It's everybody's drug.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just opening your mind to other things. And I know today that I had to go through those experiences to inform how I do my work today.
Right. What I took away from prison, one thing was I learned so much about so many different cultures. Even though I had traveled and everything, it just was, you know what I mean? I learned about how the Spanish community, like you just can't say Mexicans and Puerto Rican. They're just not one.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like different, different. So I learned a lot in, the French, and I just learned a lot about different cultures and being around different women. And, we all have our own stories and everything. Tell me, did you catch backlash with the Trump administration?
Of course. People cuss me out, call me a sellout. I'm like, if you receive the full pardon from the president, I don't care which one it is.
Yeah.
You're not going to take it? You going to call them up and be like, nah, thanks. I'm good. You a liar. People straight hate. I mean, when I tell you, people that I thought I was super cool and close with, treated me greasy. And I'm like, first of all, I didn't even apply.
Right.
It was really a blessing and a gift from God, you know, so why would you be angry about that? And I was raised with good manners. Thank you, President.
Thank you.
Right, thank you for giving me this great honor, you know, now.
Because you have a full pardon. You don't have a record. You reinstate, not just voting, but you can carry a gun now.
If I wanted
It's like
to.
it's never, ever happened.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, right? It's always there
Yeah.
because not only is it there on paper, because it's not like an expungement, but it also is there because I went through it, right? But there are things that, yes, my rights, technically on paper, I've gotten everything back. I never lost my voting rights because of New York state law.
Okay.
So I was able to still vote as soon as I was on probation or federal supervision. But it is just good to be one of the few people that, I was recognized because of the work that I do.
That's what I'm saying. You helped so many people get out and, went to the house. You was going to the White House even like during the Obama administration. Right? So I don't, but I just always wonder, how did people come at you for still going to advocate for others who were left behind during the Trump administration? When you were so big with the First Step Act and everything like that, I just couldn't understand how people can't see the good, even if you don't agree with the person.
Right. I mean, we don't agree with some of the things our own parents do.
Right.
And you're not going to always like everything about everyone. But it doesn't mean that where you can come in agreement on a particular thing that is most important to you, you do. And what I know is when I was invited in during the Trump administration the first time, I didn't go because of what everybody was telling me not to do.
Really?
My mentors, some friends, you can't go in there. It's political suicide. You're going to mess up your political career. Well, who said I was running for anything, right? But I didn't go. And I said, God, if this is an opportunity for me, I'll go. 2 weeks later, I was called again. And I went. And I went because my friends, my loved ones, my people that are incarcerated, when they said, you have to go. If you don't go, then who's going to be there that represents us? If you don't go, you can't tell them or show them who we are and what we do. I had to go because people who had been inside, who said you can't go, they forgot from whence they came. I don't.
And this episode was brought to you by the Heirs Agency, a full-service marketing firm noted in entertainment and culture. So how was you able to get past, the opposition that you received from going to the White House, from doing the Trump administration and, advocating for other people? How was you able to get past that?
Well, what I realized that it was all opposition that I have, right? Whether when I started my organization, people that I thought were supporting me and that were my friends, were not. Or people talking about me, making up, harmful rumors about me, were not. And I found myself consistently trying to be accepted, trying to be a part of what I felt was my community. But so then when this happened, I said, you know what, Topeka? These are the same people that didn't F with you then, are the same people that ain't Fing with you now.
Right.
It ain't no difference.
Yeah.
So what do you always do? You keep it pushing, right? And you will find your tribe, you will find your kind. And it allowed me to go back really into thinking about who has been there for me during my times of adversity. My family.
Right.
My closest friends. You know, I remember my friends were laughing. They were like, you out here yelling, free her, free us. Like, we ain't seen you since you've been in prison. And so, you know, it's like I had to go back, you know, and these are my people. They don't want anything from me. They want to see me win.
Right.
They want to be supportive. They're safe. I can trust that if I'm talking to them, that my information will stay with them. Well, some of them, they know the other ones. You know, they talk a little too much. You know what I mean? But I love them, and I know that they love me. And these are relationships. And, you know, honestly, I've learned through this work, you have to look at people's tribes, too. Because if a woman or person doesn't have at least one friend, you know, we in our 40s.
Yeah.
So if you don't have at least one friend that you've known for about 20 years, at least one.
At least one.
Something is wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you have not been a good person throughout your life.
I used to say that, like, in prison, like, you don't have one person that will just send $25? Not one?
One, if you don't have one person.
At Christmas time, at least?
A card, anything, you know? And so if you look at people and they don't have, you know, you're fortunate, I'm fortunate to have people that really love us and that we love, right?
Yeah.
That will go to bat.
I'm fortunate that you love me so much.
Oh, yes. Many people don't.
Right.
You know, so we are truly blessed in that. But that's how I get through everything, you know? I go to my people. You know, I have people that I can talk to, people that I trust, people that trust me. And when people are starting to do things that are really just not nice, I know they're not my people.
Right. And you just move on.
And I just keep it moving.
Yeah. It's hard sometimes, though, you know, because it's hurtful.
It definitely is hurtful.
Yeah.
But you know what? My mother used to tell me when I was little, and I'd be like, why are they making fun of me? Or Topeka, when people stop talking about you is when you need to worry.
Right. And
So
that's what you stick to.
And look, I always go back to the wise Sergeant Sam.
Yeah.
She's always had things like that to say, you know? They talking, so you're doing something right. When you're no longer relevant,
that's when you need to worry.
You need to worry.
I want you, before you go, like I have another question after this, but I want you to help someone that's kind of like dealing with grief now, because you are a daddy's girl. You get what I'm saying? And that was a time that you still had to be Topeka Sam, but at the same time, like, this is my father.
Yeah.
You know? So what could you tell somebody that's like going through that right now?
God, you got to pray. I mean, I'm still grieving,
Yeah.
you know. I'm grieving many things. I'm grieving the loss of my father. I'm grieving my freedom that I lost, you know, the career that I had before I went to prison, the people that I love that I lost along the way.
Right.
You know, I grieve the fact that my mother is older and she's, you know, health isn't 100%. And so, you know,
it made you take a look this year.
It absolutely did,
Yeah.
right? Like, about what is most important. You can work all these hours, you could travel the world, and it's nice to be diamond status here, you know, platinum executive here, get the free upgrades and all the things, you know?
Yeah.
It's great.
I ain't made diamond status yet, but I'm coming. I'm coming.
You be right there in a minute. I keep seeing you in the first class seats. But, you know, it's like, you could have all of that, but when you go and you see your loved one and, you know, they're aging rapidly.
Yeah.
Or, and you didn't realize it because the last time you put eyes on them. Now, me and my mom talk like every day.
Right.
But the fact that I didn't put my eyes on her in a while, and then the next time I did, it was because she was going to the hospital. It hurts. And then you have to start to take your own inventory of what's most important. You know, I have godchildren. I have nieces and nephews, you know. I see them, they barely talking. Now they holding whole Aunt Pika and shit. You know, like a whole conversation.
Yeah.
So it's like, how are you, like, you have to look at what's most important. And what's most important is our family, is our loved ones, are the people who are there and care for you and people you care for. It's really not about any of this other stuff. You know, my work is aligned with God, so I love to do it. It gives me joy and it keeps me full. But what's most important to me are my family. And no matter what it is that we go through, because trust, we go through a lot.
Yeah.
That when times were rough and when I was in my darkest moments, my friends, and I say my family because my friends are family, right? They were there for me. You know, when my mom was in the hospital, they reached out. They text me. You know, how are you?
Respond to the text?
How's your, you know, I don't always, you know, sorry, I'm bad. Emails,
horrible.
I'm bad. I am. But call me. I will answer the phone. I do answer the phone. Text, maybe. I got about 4,000 texts. They be coming in.
A week later.
No, they did.
Like, sis, I apologize again.
How did I miss this? Or whatever. But my intentions are pure. But I am now in this new kind of iteration, like I said, of my life. And this year, and this season, are really putting my family and my friends priority. And everything else is secondary.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So tell us about this house that you have in Detroit with you, Angela Yee, and Jasmine.
Yes, and Jessica. Can't forget.
Jessica.
No, Jessica and Jasmine. There's four of us.
Brand. Okay.
Right,
and
yes,
Jessica.
and Jessica.
Okay.
Jessica's kind of like the silent, she don't like any,
attention
at all.
Oh,
So,
you
know,
and
but
Angela Yee, y'all are going to take enough of it.
whatever. Whatever. So the dope opportunity in this project was, Angela and I, she's one of my newer friends, and just really, really was inspired by the work and things that I was doing, and asked me, like, what do you want to do? And I'm telling her, And so she brought the opportunity to me in Detroit.
Okay.
And she was like, I think this would be something that's great. Let's look into it. And I did. And I brought Jessica along because that's who I always worked with around the real estate acquisitions and just her doing all the market research and things. And I was like, well, this is great, but I don't have this kind of money, to put up on it. She's like, well, girl, you bring so much more to the project. Don't worry about that. I'm like, that's nice, but, let's talk about what, and she was like, no, Topeka. She was like, I want to see you win too. And so we did this project. She gave me.
You're so used to giving so much that you have a problem accepting.
No, but it's just not accepted. Like she, and I say she, yes, we are partners, but we partnered in as, I'm a full equity partner in this project.
Right.
And she's the one that put up the majority of the capital, her and Jasmine. And it was like, well, wow. Now, obviously, I got the work. Jessica's working. We do the things that we got to do to make sure that this comes into fruition and that when formerly incarcerated women get in this building, that we're able to give them market rate rent.
God paying you back in another way.
But that's it, right?
Yeah,
but God uses all of us. But these are the type of relationships and things that are unheard of. And I was so inspired when, she was able to wire X amount of dollars and be like, I may be cash poor right now, but I know what this is going to be. And the fact that, like, watching and learning from people like that who are open enough to share knowledge, right? Because you have to align yourself with people like that. I share the knowledge that I have in the ways that I do with everyone who asks, right? But when you get to a certain level, it's very difficult to find people who are at a different, higher level than you to do that. She is a selfless person in that way. Shout outs to Angela and Jasmine and Jessica. I learn from all three of them all the time.
Yeah.
And to be included in such a project like this, that's not only changing the lives of 30 women who are going to be in this building, but it's changed my life.
Right.
Because it also puts me in a different financial situation. And this is just the first project that we're doing,
Yeah.
It's
really
exciting.
In other states. Yeah. Excuse me.
But
the apartment building is how many?
It's 30 units.
30 units, okay. Yeah.
From studios to 2 bedrooms. It's in Detroit. And we're ahead of schedule. So it'll be opening in the spring.
Y'all. I'll be reposting.
Yeah, it's really,
really dope.
It's very dope,
Yeah.
super exciting. And I'm just really grateful to God to be given the opportunity to be involved in a project like this.
So will it be for-profit or non-profit?
It is for-profit.
It is for-profit. Oh, great. But y'all are opening that door where offenders are having such a hard time getting a house when they come home.
So
or having somewhere to stay.
Right. So what we're doing is for women who have an intersection between incarceration, domestic violence, aging under foster care. We're 10 units so far. We may do more. We're allocating 10 units to our particular population. I say our because that's a part of, who I am.
Yeah.
And so once we open that up, if there are other opportunities. And so it's a full rehab. The units are beautiful. And, it's feel good. From there, we're going to be starting another project where Angela just got her license, her real estate license.
Oh, okay.
And she wants to help people buy their first home. And so I'm like, hey, every person that I know that's formerly incarcerated or impacted that wants to purchase their home, sending them to you.
Yeah.
Because I know she's going to take care of them, right? I know that she's going to make sure that they find.
She's going to fight for them.
Bottom line. And so, it's just really exciting, through that, through the My Fresh, the new banking company platform that I created. We're also offering health insurance for people. If they make under $40,000 a year, they get free health care.
Which is important.
Which is incredibly important for anybody, in today's society. So many opportunities that are just opening up. But I said, nonprofit, while it's great, it is nonprofit.
Yeah.
And while I get a salary as the CEO of the organization, I don't own it. And so no matter what I have put in this business,
Tears.
I take no equity. There's no legacy left for my family, other than Topeka did a great job saving the lives of so many people, which is fine.
Yeah.
And God,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah,
but I want to
know
be
you-
able to leave a
something
legacy
else.
for the 8 nieces and nephews and the God kids that I have.
Right.
And so these new projects that I've embarked upon are all for profit. And I said, from this year moving forward,
That's what it is.
that's what it is.
I ain't mad at you. I ain't mad. Don't leave your baby sister out.
Never.
Now, before you go, you have to tell me one thing that you feel like you're in bondage to and need to break free from.
What? No. One thing I am in bondage to that I need to break free of, survivor's remorse. I think that I struggle and have always struggled with the privilege that I have been afforded as a Black woman.
Really?
Yes.
I would have never known.
Yeah. It is something that runs deep from when I was younger. And, you think you all that because da-da-da-da, to the time I was in prison and I got visits every week, had money on my books.
All mail call every time.
Every time, all the things,
Yeah.
right? To now, being afforded relief and only having to do 3 out of 10 where there are women like Michelle West, who's been in over 30 years, right?
Rita Peake still fighting.
Right? Say their names.
Yeah. Tiffany Arnold still fighting.
So, that is where I'm in bondage. And I know that while God has forgiven me, so that was the first time I should have shed a layer. The work that I do is my retribution.
Right.
The pardon, the doctorate, the lives that I save each and every day. That should be enough.
Right.
And yet I still find myself still not, to date, because I'm doing a little better now, moving into my full potential and my full greatness because I'm just like, I feel bad about it.
Yeah.
And it's real. But I mean, I've been through therapy about it, and I know it is a bondage, but I am on Break Free
And
podcast.
you're breaking free, baby.
And I'm breaking
You're
free
breaking
from
free.
it.
We breaking it. We pulling
Yes.
the straws down.
All the way.
Yeah,
So,
but it really is like my friend, the guy that I was asking you to help me with,
Yes.
with my Cody. Well, he ended up getting clemency.
Yes.
And before they had reached out, asked me to write a letter. And that's what I was telling the judge. Like, we all went to prison for the same. I understand what survivor remorse is. Most of the time is when 2 people in a car accident or something, one died, one survived. But no, survivor remorse is real. It's times that I would get out the bed and just when my feet touch the carpet, I think about his touching the cement, and just, when 4 o'clock come, like he's still in that, in that place or whatever. So I was telling the judge, like, survivor's remorse, I understand it, and I feel bad every day that I'm out here with my family and my friend is still in there, and we all did the same thing. It's just that he had a prior record. Nothing violent, but just a prior record. But I told him, I thank God, guess what? He on his way home, and I called my other homeboys. We was on the 3-way. I said, it is over. I am done with you niggas, okay? I'm free.
You have broken free.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, sis, for your time and
thank
your
you.
attention today.
I
love you, and you are one of the many women that I do look up to, that I admire.
Thank you.
And I just thank you. And I need to be on your calendar this year because I need help with my nonprofit. Okay.
I got you, no problem.
Okay.
I'm here for that. But more so the for-profits. Let's get into that, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Well, guys, this has been another phenomenal episode of Break Free. I pray that you enjoyed it like I did, and something was said to help you in a way that you did not know that you needed. And remember, it's always delusion until they see it happen. I'll see you next time. And this episode was brought to you by the Heirs Agency, a full-service marketing firm noted in entertainment and culture.